Good afternoon. Before I call this meeting to order, I will note for the record that I will serve as the acting chair for today's meeting. I now call to order the meeting of the directors of the New York Transportation Development Corporation for Thursday, December 19th, 2019. I'd like to note for the record that this meeting is being webcast and that we welcome public comment on the items on our agenda. The directors have received the relevant written materials in advance of today's meeting and are free to ask questions at any time. Before we begin with the substantive portion of the meeting, I would like to ask the directors whether anyone has any potential conflict or of interest with respect to any of the items on the agenda. If so, please make an appropriate disclosure on the record at this time. All right. Hearing none, then our first order of business is the approval of the minutes of the directors' meeting of September 16th, 2019. Have any questions, comments, additions, or deletions to the minutes?
No.
If not, I'll entertain a motion for approval.
So moved.
Second.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, thank you. The motion carries. Unless someone objects, Jonathan Byer will provide one presentation on the next 4 agenda items, requesting authorization to prepare documents for the issuance of bonds, take related actions, and to enter into contracts for legal services, all for the JFK Airport Terminal 1 project. We will then take one vote on all 4 items following Jonathan's presentation. All right, Jonathan, please begin.
Thank you, and good morning, everyone. One of the components of the governor's vision of a unified, interconnected, world-class John F. Kennedy Airport is a new approximately $7.4 billion terminal, the new Terminal 1, on JFK's south side to be developed by a consortium of airlines, Air France, Japan Airlines, Korean Air, and Lufthansa, also known together as TOGA. Also, certain development financial partners, Carlyle, JLC, Ullico, collectively the financial sponsors. The plans call for replacing JFK's Terminal 1, which TOGA currently operates, Terminal 2, and the vacant area where Terminal 3 was demolished in 2014, with a single new Terminal 1, the project. The new Terminal 1 will be a 2.8 million square foot, 3-level facility with 22 wide-body gates and 1 narrow-body gate. The project will be funded through investments to be made by TOGA and financing to be provided by the financial sponsors, and through third-party debt to be borrowed by or issued by the corporation. Third-party debt is expected to include bank loans, letter of credit facilities, and interest rate hedging contracts, collectively the bank loans, and tax-exempt and taxable bonds issued by the corporation. A commercial banking syndicate, which does not include any of the financial sponsors, will commit to make the bank loans, which will be drawn down and loaned to the corporation as needed to fund construction costs, thereby reducing the carrying costs of the financing. As capital market conditions warrant, bonds may be issued to pay for project costs and or to refinance the bank loans. The interest rate hedging contracts, such as interest rate swaps, will mitigate the risk of interest rate changes on the bank loans. All of the corporation's liabilities and obligations related to its participation in the project will be limited to payments received from a newly formed project borrower. The corporation has the authority to serve as a conduit issuer to incur the bank loans, to issue the bonds, and to provide an exemption from the mortgage recording tax on any mortgages securing both the bank loans and or the bonds. To facilitate the Transportation Development Corporation's participation in the project, the board is requested to authorize the following preliminary actions. Underwriters. Citigroup Global Markets has been selected as the senior managing underwriter for the bonds. Citi is on the corporation's pre-qualified list of underwriters and was selected by the corporation and supported by the financial sponsors for its extensive experience in all aspects of municipal finance. The corporation, in consultation with the financial sponsors, will have the option to select additional co-managers from the pre-qualified list of underwriters to the extent necessary to meet MWBE goals. Financial advisor. Public Resources Advisory Group, PRAG, has been selected as the corporation's financial advisor for the project. PRAG is on the pre-qualified list of financial advisors and was selected based on its extensive experience in all aspects of municipal finance, particularly airport financing, and its hourly rate proposal subject to a cap of $250,000. PRAG will subcontract to Mohanty, a minority and women-owned business enterprise, to address applicable participation goals. Federal tax requirements. In accordance with the Tax, Equity, and Fiscal Responsibility Act, the Board of Directors is requested to authorize the holding of a public hearing, the publication of the prior notice of the hearing, and the subsequent request to the governor for approval of the project and the plan of financing for the project. Inducement. Inducement of the project will enable proceeds of the bank loans and the bonds in an expected maximal principal amount of up to $8 billion, or such larger amount as is needed, to be used, among other things, to reimburse expenditures made for the project by Terminal Co., the new project company, TOGA, and/or the financial sponsors prior to the date or dates of the bank loan borrowings or the issuances of the bonds. The attached resolution does not authorize or require the corporation to enter into the bank loans or to issue the bonds. Preliminary documents. Staff is requesting consent by the Board of Directors to commence review and drafting of documents. An additional meeting of the Board will occur so that the Board of Directors can approve the final form of documents and authorize the specific transaction terms, including providing mortgage recording tax exemptions. Finally, the Board is being asked to approve the retention of 3 law firms to represent the corporation on this transaction, 2 co-bond counsel and 1 disclosure counsel. Catton, Muchin, Rosenman, LLP would serve as co-bond counsel, together with the law firm of D. Seaton & Associates and MWBE. Catton will also be authorized to subcontract other counsel, Brian Cave, Leighton Paisner, for any necessary environmental matters. Lastly, Berger Gray and MWBE would serve as disclosure counsel to ensure compliance with federal securities laws. All the firms have substantial tax-exempt bond experience and are on the corporation's pre-qualified counsel list for bond counsel services. All counsel costs and expenses are expected to be paid by the financial sponsors and the borrower through the closing on the first financing, and thereafter by the borrower from the financing proceeds or other sources. Counsel would work at their typically hourly rates less a discount for a term expiring on December 31st, 2025. In addition, counsel will acknowledge that the corporation will have no obligation to pay any legal fees except to the extent funds, if any, are received from the financial sponsors, the borrower, or from any source for that purpose. Based on the foregoing, staff recommends approval of the requested actions related to the new Terminal 1 project at JFK.
Great. All right, are there any questions or comments from the directors with regard to these items? No. Thank you, Jonathan. That was a great presentation. The only question I had was about the TEFRA hearing and the process, essentially the timeline from here, just to help, elucidate for folks how it goes.
Okay. Well, the governor's office is sort of one of the key element that we don't have explicit control over. But the first part of the process is to arrange a hearing, and that hearing can be really done anytime. We'll probably have that in January. I think the bonds are really, the first closing is expected really at the earliest April. After the hearing, after the board approves the final or the near final documents, then we'd put in a request to the governor's office, which, based on TDC's board approval and the no negative testimony at the hearing, we would then get the governor's approval.
Right. So this board will have to meet again,
Exactly.
prior to that, essentially, prior to the issue.
Exactly.
Great. Are there any comments from the public with regard to these items? If not, I'll entertain a motion for approval on all 4 items that we discussed.
Moved.
Second. All right. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Thank you. The motion carries. And as with the previous 4 items, unless anyone objects, Jonathan will continue to make one presentation on the next 4 items, requesting authorization to prepare documents for the issuance of bonds, take related actions, and to enter into contracts for the legal services, all for the JFK Airport Terminal 8 project. We will then take one vote on all 4 items following Jonathan's presentation. Jonathan?
And just so people don't think I'm just repeating myself needlessly, these items are very similar because they're both airports, or both JFK Airport, they're both terminals, and they're both kind of on a parallel timeline, and that's in part because it's part of a whole unified plan for the development of JFK. So some things will sound familiar. There are some differences, but I hope you'll all bear with me as I go through it. The New York Transportation Development Corporation has been requested by American Airlines to issue up to approximately $475 million of bonds to finance the renovation and expansion of Terminal 8 at John F. Kennedy International Airport, and to refund a portion, approximately $45 million, of outstanding bonds issued by the corporation in 2016 that were used to refinance a portion of the cost of the original acquisition and construction of Terminal 8. American Airlines operates Terminal 8, which consists of approximately 1.5 million square foot building, including a remote concourse, public concession space, and related service facilities, and a total of 35 aircraft gates. The new facilities to be financed by the bonds include the reconfiguration or elimination of certain existing gates and the construction of jumbo gates, resulting in a total of 30 or 31 gates, plus new aircraft parking hard stands, the construction of approximately 51,000 square feet of new terminal building space, and the refurbishment of 73,000 square feet of existing terminal space, expansion of the baggage system capacity, and finally, various improvements to the premier passenger lounges, check-in, and security access areas. The corporation has the authority to serve as a conduit issuer for tax-exempt debt financing and to provide an exemption from the mortgage recording tax on any mortgages securing the bonds. The corporation will be fully indemnified by American for all liabilities and obligations related to its participation in the project. To facilitate the corporation's participation, the board is requested to authorize the following preliminary actions. Underwriters. Citigroup Global Markets, Inc. has been selected as the senior managing underwriter for the bonds. Citi is on the corporation's pre-qualified list of underwriters and has extensive experience in all aspects of municipal finance. The corporation, in consultation with American, will have the option to select additional co-managers to meet MWBE participation goals. Financial advisors. Public Resources Advisory Group has been selected as the corporation's financial advisor for the project. Prague is on the pre-qualified list of financial advisors and was selected based on its extensive experience in all aspects of municipal finance, particularly airport financing, and its hourly rate proposal subject to a cap of $250,000. Prague will subcontract to Mahanti, a minority and woman-owned business enterprise, to address applicable participation goals. Federal tax law requirements. In accordance with the Tax Equity and Fiscal Responsibility Act, or TEFRA, the Board of Directors is requested to authorize the holding of a public hearing, the publication of the prior notice of the hearing, and the subsequent request to the Governor for approval of the project and/or the plan of financing. Inducement. Inducement of the project will enable proceeds of the issuance and sale of the bonds in an amount of up to $475 million to be used, among other things, to reimburse expenditures made for the project by the company prior to the date of issue of the bonds, thereby expediting the project. The attached inducement resolution does not authorize or require the issuance of bonds. Documents. Staff is requesting consent by the Board of Directors to commence review and drafting of documents. An additional meeting of the Board will occur so that the Board of Directors can approve the form of final documents and authorize transaction terms, including providing mortgage recording tax exemptions. Finally, the Board is being asked to approve the retention of 3 law firms to represent the corporation on this transaction, 2 co-bond counsel and 1 disclosure counsel. Catton Muchin would serve as co-bond counsel together with the law firm of Berger Gray and MWBE. Catton will also be authorized to subcontract other counsel, Brian Cave, for any necessary environmental matters. Lastly, Perlman and Miranda and MWBE would serve as disclosure counsel to ensure compliance with federal securities laws. All of the firms have substantial tax-exempt bond experience and are on the corporation's pre-qualified counsel list for bond counsel services adopted on February 16, 2017. All counsel costs and expenses are expected to be paid by American from the financing proceeds or other sources. Counsel would work at their typically hourly rates less a discount for a term expiring December 31, 2025. In addition, counsel will acknowledge that the corporation will have no obligation to pay any legal fees except to the extent funds, if any, are received from American or from any source for that purpose. Based on the foregoing, staff recommends approval of the requested actions related to the Terminal 8 project at JFK Airport.
Great. Are there any questions or comments from the directors with regard to these items?
I think just the teams are essentially staying the same, as you said earlier, because it's airport specialty in the airport, their specialty in airport.
That's one of the primary reasons, but one of the other reasons, but particularly for Catton Muchin, is that there's a refunding involved. So there were bonds previously issued for American, and they were the firm that did that refunding. So as from an efficiency standpoint, to have a new firm come in, start from scratch, this.
Great, thank you.
And then timing again of this transaction essentially is similar to the last one we were talking about.
Yeah, it's a little bit more in flux. I mean, Elaine, do you have any clue as to,
We don't know yet.
Okay.
It's really.
Right. But the board will have to meet again.
The board,
Yes.
again, the
Yes.
board will have to meet again.
Exactly. Okay. Great. Are there any comments from the public? If not, I'll entertain a motion for approval on all 4 items.
So move.
Second?
Great, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? No. Thank you very much. The motion carries, and there being no further business, may I have a motion to adjourn?
So move.
Great. Thank you, everyone, for your participation in today's meeting.
Thank you.
Good job.